All right. For those of you who are here, please confirm that you can hear and see, because this setup is a little different than usual. This is a different part of my house. And if you were here last week, you will understand why I may be on the other computer today. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat right now and get that confirmation before yes, Margaret says can see and hear. That is awesome. And I'm actually quite curious. This is a very bouncy room as far as sound. So I'm wondering how the sound compares. Does it sound like I am in a tunnel? Because that's what it feels like. I can hear my voice bouncing off of the kitchen. So I would just like to know. And folks, welcome. All right. Whew. The stress of getting all squared away. I'm sweating a little. Game Guy says the sound is fine. That's awesome. Yes, those of you who attended last week will recall that my camera at the worst time, at the moment that I needed it to work, decided not to work. And that same thing happened again today. So it seems that I do have some sort of problem that I need to address. And it's also curious that it is addressed by going to a different computer. So it's probably not the camera itself, which means I have no idea how to fix this situation. But luckily, the simple fix is to hope that nobody looks that carefully at the rest of my house, which is very kid friendly. You can see back there is a washing machine. I didn't even honestly have a chance to look that carefully at what was in the background. The television, the couches, whatever this stuff is over there, I assure you it's all business related. Oh, for those of you who have not yet bought a ticket to Affiliate Gathering, the link is supposedly, hopefully, in the description of this video for the digital tickets. For those of you who were on the fence about going in person or wanting to catch the digital presentations, I did put the link there. And I'm, even though I will not be there myself, Carl asked me to make a mention on the stream about the availability of digital tickets, and I'm happy to do so because I do support Affiliate Gathering wholeheartedly, even though I will not be there myself. Checking the chat, Game Guy says, "Hi friends, I almost forgot this week." And I say, well, how could you? And I see Margaret and Joanne and Zach and Sabina. What is going on? They can see other people rolling in. There's Pete and Adrian, and Josh is on time, which is excellent. And our friends Maeve and Jay, thanks for dropping in. So one of the things that I was making notes about, and I don't know if anybody else saw this, but on Sunday, I had the normal ups and down, up and down, up and down for traffic. And then on Sunday, I had two sites that literally went like this. Like there was a day and one of the sites is very, very strong on the weekends, so I was not surprised to see the traffic come down for the next day. But the other site is not strongly, does not do well on the weekends. So to see a bump to go like this, and then it's maintained after that. So I'm curious, did anybody else notice some sort of traffic spike on Sunday? See Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday during the day, or Monday? And if so, does anybody have any thoughts as to what is happening and why? I have noticed no changes in SoberBot. In fact, the keywords that I'm tracking were slightly down. So I definitely didn't just win. There wasn't just like a hooray, like I won. Like something got adjusted and I didn't know what it was. And I wondered if anybody else had heard the chatter about what it was, because I don't know. I didn't have a spike to the homepage. Margaret said I got a spike, but it was all to the homepage. Happens occasionally and goes away. And I thought for sure, especially with the site that doesn't usually get weekend traffic. So Saturday, it went way down. Like it was a big dip. And then on Sunday, it spiked up. And then after that, it has stayed high. And so it wasn't to the homepage. So I'm just curious if anybody else has an idea about what is going on. Gokul says, "Hey, Amelia from the other side of the world from India. What is up?" And there's Sonia who's making tea and listening in, which is amazing. So we're talking about actual tea, or we're talking about like dinner? Because like the uneducated American here has no idea if it's actually tea or if it's actually food, because apparently in some places of the world, making tea means making a meal. I would like to know. Sabina says that she is riding today, and she said her traffic is so boring right now. Well, traffic is only not boring when it is spiking up. I would rather it go up and not down. Josh says, I think the roller coaster does that a lot more than people wanted to. Josh says he's always riding. Zach says for the spike, he said just the usual Sunday spikes, nothing fancy. And Maeve says tea is the evening meal. Yes, but sometimes tea is just tea. Like, how do I know the difference? Do I have to ask people to identify where they are in the world? He said, I'm making British tea, and then I will know that you actually mean a meal versus like American tea, which is tea, just tea, like tea in a cup, hot water with the. All right. So, how is everybody? How are your sites? How are things? I have been suffering from a little bit of overindulgence in the analytics lately. I'm sad to admit, and I think the reason is that I just really want it to go. And I am having a really hard time staying as focused. I guess this is an accountability moment. I'll just lay it out there. I'm having a harder time this month really getting as much content done, and find myself looking at analytics with the idea that I'm working and really not doing as much working and spending a lot more time dreaming. And there's nothing wrong with it. But if that is you, I would love it if you could put a hand up in the chat and be like, hashtag me too. Uh, I have to say that I'm thrilled, of course, with the progress. And actually, it's story time. Story time. Yesterday, I was at a barbecue, and I was talking with a mom who was also talking about wanting to make some extra money. And I generally don't talk about blogging all that often because, people are like, oh, that sounds like a scam. You just post things on the internet and then Google sends you money. And I'm like, yes, that is what happens. And, but I found myself talking about it a lot. Like I really needed to talk about it. And I usually don't tell people how much anything makes, because to me it feels like bragging, right? Like, or it's uncouth. Like, we shouldn't be telling people how much money we earn. It's not. It's like it's over proud. It's arrogant, and so I usually don't say anything. But I said it out loud to somebody the other day. I was like, "Oh, I started this site last January, and it's almost making $4,000 a month." And they were kind of like looking at me like, "What?" I was like, I know, right? Like, it's not $20,000 a month, and $20,000, like, it just sort of went by them. There's like $4,000 a month. And I was like, yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm spoiling the surprise for next month, but the Biga site is not going to make quite $4,000 a month, but it's going to be really close. So you think back to like, oh, like 0 to 1,000, how long that took. And then 1,000 to $4,000 a month. It's like really like really short, which is exciting. But anyway, I kept finding myself saying things like, I swear it's not an MLM. I swear I have nothing to sell you. I swear, I don't need your money for anything. And I just did not explain it very well, but I did admit to somebody that the site was making almost $4,000 a month. And then I was like, wait a second, I should be proud of this instead of feeling embarrassed about it. So sort of a convoluted story to one, circle around the fact that the Miga site is going to make $4,000 a month. Probably not this month, but probably next month, which is really exciting considering I just crossed $3,000 a month like 2 months ago. So to go from like is really exciting. And yeah, I would really like for it to be more. And I'm obsessed with checking analytics to be like, is today the day? Like, is today the day? It's gonna be my other goals, but today was not the day. Even though I had a traffic spike on Sunday, it was still not the day. I would love to know in the chat, folks. Please help me get motivated because seriously, today I just want to like cuddle up and like read a book and not do anything at all. I need your help. I'm going to the chat. I see Stephen rolling in. Hello, Stephen. How's it going? Gokul has a question. He says, "How's life after quitting law and working as a full-time blogger?" The answer is for me, I wouldn't say I love it, but pretty darn close. Because as a lawyer, I was getting up and going to work at before 7 a.m. and then I would work until 9 o'clock at night sometimes, and literally just go to bed and recycle and repeat. So today it is 10:15 in the morning where I live, and got the kids to school, and I did that myself. Of course, with all the flurry of not cleaning up the house and of all the stress and drama of kids, and then I'm going to drink coffee and sit here and talk to you all and not be stressed out about clients or about billing or about collections. Like I'm just here hanging out with some friends, drinking coffee out of a jar that I haven't finished ripping all of the paper off of. So the summary is good. I highly recommend it to all the rest of you, should you have the opportunity to quit the practice of law and go into blogging. Soren says hello. I say, Soren, how are you? And how is your keyword research procrastination going? Have you found a way to get more content published, or are you still digging into keywords? Stiggs, who is here with his capital letters, and he says, hashtag you go girl. Thank you. I don't feel like I've been a girl, like a girl. I mean, look at all these wrinkles. You know, that is the one thing about being at this computer is I feel like my wrinkles are on show today. Upcycle quilt artist, who, by the way, joined the Icarus spreadsheet recently, when we were glad to have you, said that she's finally seeing some ad revenue, more than a few pennies. I would tell you what, when you finally start making that first dollar consistently, either a day or a week or a month, it just feels so good. It's the best feeling. It really is. So writing more content like crazy, the best motivation ever. And you know, maybe that's why it's hard to get as motivated when you're already in the $1,000 a month and more range, is that it's not as special. Like an angel didn't just get its wings when the site gets that first dollar, like, oh, it's like $1,001. You're like, $1,002 versus 1, 2, 3. Uh, Andy Woolley says, better late than never. I said, Andy, I really doubt that you missed that much. But as a penalty for being late, you must tell us how you are and how are things and what are you working on. Game Guy says, oh, that's so awesome. Congrats on the almost 4K. So here's the thing. I thought of you the other day when I was sitting down thinking about how much the site was making and not producing content. I was thinking, okay, how much of this payment that will arrive in 60 days should I spend on content versus should I consider setting it some of it aside to play with? Like should we do a diabetic game guy and go on a trip as a family? Should we think about the reward for all of this work? And because usually what I do is I just take the money and then be really responsible with it and put it right back into content. But uh, it kind of coincides with the discussion I've been having with my kids about scouts, because they are just finishing up their first year at scouts and they're kind of like meh about uh, going again, about continuing for next year. And we were having a talk about like fun versus rewarding, and how sometimes scouts is fun, but sometimes it's not. And I was like trying to explain to them that doing hard things is really rewarding. And they were like, well, we don't see the rewarding part. I'm like, oh, when you're grown up, you'll be so glad. And they're like, but I don't see that. And, so we're spending time at scouts talking with the other leaders and the parents, like, how can we help them understand the reward part without it being like awards or presents or candy or, like what can we do? And how sometimes if there are no rewards in blogging, how it can be mentally very challenging. It can be like a weight on your shoulders, and say, can I create, some kind of a reward system that isn't artificial trophies and like participation certificates? And so I don't know. I'm in tossing it back and forth because I've never taken my kids really like to amusement parks. I don't really do that stuff because I don't like people. But I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you ladies think? I would love to know what you think about creating, I don't want to say artificial rewards, but as a way to remind us about, this journey is really long, and what do we need to do to keep ourselves on track? Like accountability wise, I have this group, I have this live stream and the Icarus group. And so everybody, ladies and gentlemen, do help me keep on track, but I'm finding that it's becoming less effective lately. One, because I think live streaming has become dramatically easier in the last month. So it used to be that I would have to sit down and like, get ready and like be stressed out. And now I'm like scrambling. Like the last 2 weeks has been a really great example where it's just like, oh, like last minute figuring out the camera doesn't work and like throwing stuff out of the way. I don't know. I want to know what y'all think about it. I'll get to the chat whenever I catch up. Joanne says that she's fallen behind because of COVID and husband in the hospital, so taking some time out. That's totally okay, totally understandable. We'll just have like a minute to send some good thoughts to Joanne and her husband, wherever you are in the world. Sonia says she's making tea, as in the drink. Well, thank you for clarifying. It's 1 a.m. here and I'm drinking some chai, and that's well done. So that is dedication, and we appreciate your participation at 1 o'clock in the morning. And go cool for the same, because over there in India, this is the wrong time of the day for a live stream. Jen says, finally seeing ad revenue. We did touch that. See, I'm behind. Nice Dr. Evil gesture. You'll have to remind me what the Dr. Evil is. Was that it? Did I sell the mom blog? I did not. I still have it. The plan was to resuscitate it. So here's what happened. 3 months ago, I decided I was going to resurrect this blog because it has somewhere between 18 and 20,000 page views a month and is very, very poorly monetized. And I was like, oh, I'm trying, like struggling to start these other new sites that barely get any, like my Otis case study. It got 1,000 page views last month. I'm like dumping time and money into it. I'm like, why don't I just do that with this other site that already has almost 20,000 page views a month? Like the ramp up between 1,000 and 50,000 sessions a month versus 18,000 and 50,000 sessions a month. Like it's so I started putting time and money into it. And then I'm assuming an update happened, but literally the minute I started working on it, traffic started going like this. Like, so it's so hard to want to continue to work on it because I feel like every time I touch it, it does worse. Oh, put your hand up if you can relate to working on blogs and causing them to do terrible. Wow, I have a gray hair like right here, and I think the light just catches it perfectly. Yes, other joys of working in the kitchen. The light is different here. Sabina says that she feels bad telling people about blogging because I don't want them to have to go through the emotional part. Says you don't want to convince them to go along. You're like, because it's so hard. Ooh, I'm looking at the thumbs up, and it is very, very underwhelming. Please go smash that when you get a chance. It makes me feel fuzzy. That's really it. People saying hi to Zach. Oh, yes. But at the same time, I think everybody should do it. I don't think everybody should do it. In fact, I only think my friends should do it and the people I care about, because I don't want there to be more competition. Andy says, congrats to getting to 4K very soon. Yes, very soon. Not there yet. I was doing the math and I think it'll be 3,800, maybe, hopefully, like at the end of May, we will see. Mom says, yes. Soren says, giving. Sonia says, sorry, I'm feeling a bit down, but hey, you're making 4K from blogs while some of us aren't making 400. Yeah, it's all about perspective, right? And so it's a great time to sit back and just remind yourself that, hey, I've come a long way with this. And it's taking me, August will be the conclusion of 4 years at this. And actually, I wish that I had not thrown this away, but I did. I was going through and trying to clean house, which is a losing battle. And I came across, I always have these notebooks, right? And I came across a journaling that I did from 2019, almost 3 years ago, where I wrote down that I wanted to be making $10,000 a month from my online efforts. And I don't usually talk about like totals, right? Um, 2019 was closer to my like beginning, and to be like fast forward for like 3 years and like really being close to finally like running that down. Um, like it's really within my grasp this year, whereas 3 years ago it wasn't at all. It wasn't anywhere near it. But it's not something that happens quickly. So yes, perspective, but for also folks who are in that first year who are making that couple $100 and they're comparing themselves to people who are making thousands of dollars. Like there's a lot of, usually not for everybody, but usually there's a lot of time in there that goes into it. So that's the other part of the perspective, right? Is a reminder that the people who have gotten there have usually invested and made many mistakes. So that's me. That's me. Stick says, love the new old office, Throwback Wednesday. Yes, for those of you who have been around since the beginning, I did originally make videos from right here. And I stopped doing it because I didn't like the light, because the light comes from over there. And so it's like one side of my face is like blanked out white. And the other reason is the sound. And my microphone is not reliable. Basically, I just need to invest money in live streaming, and I would rather spend it on a vacation or content. That's me. Soren says he's giving himself permission to sleep on the sofa and do nothing. Yeah, it's always been a struggle. I'm not good at it. I feel guilty about doing it because I know in my heart I should be doing A, B, C, and D, but sometimes it's got to happen. Doing nothing is okay from time to time. Yeah, I feel like I do nothing too much though. I feel like I could just be so much further along if I did more. I mean, which is probably true, but then I would be insane. Folks want to know, when is Stigs Fest going to happen? When is there going to be a Chicago affiliate gathering? Well, we'll have to ask Stigs and be prepared to show up backwards and upside down. Yes, Josh, he says all work and no play is a way to burn out. And the answer is yes. Totally agree. But at the same time, I want this other thing. I just want it so much. How do I balance those? Josh says, hence I'm on PTO and gone most of next month. Well, you also went hiking recently, so I applaud you for taking life in hand and focusing on some quality of life aspects. I love it. And here come the jokes. Thanks, folks, in the chat. John contributes with, what does a sprinter eat for breakfast? Nothing. They fast. So I would repeat that one for my children, but they don't know what fasting means. Not in the idea, and also not in life, because they eat constantly. Andy says that he's working on 2 sites, one seasonal, one YMYL, just hitting $500 per month and 20,000 visitors at the month and growing, all part-time. Love the creative process. Well, congratulations. Getting to $500 a month. I remember the feeling, and it was a great feeling. And I feel like if you can get to $500 a month, then the remainder of the income goals are all within reach, because you have the skills at that point to do it. And it's just time. It's just time. Oh, more dad jokes. Where does a mountain climber keep his plane? In a cliffhanger. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to repeat that one to my kids. We need committees and subcommittees. I'm going to leave that one for you guys, and send me an invite when it happens. Back to the idea of whether or not to spend earnings on family and fun things. Zach says, set aside a percentage of revenue gives personal incentive to scale. Aha. So you say, okay, I will set aside 10% of every month's revenue, and that will go into a kitty or a pot or an account that I can use for fun things, and use that as motivation to do more, because then that fun account will grow more quickly and you can do cool things. And that's a great idea. I highly recommend that. Dad joke 2 says, will invisible airplanes ever be a thing? I can't see them taking off. Jay says, back to the split, the percentage split when it comes to revenue. He goes 10, 30, 60. He says 10% pay yourself, 30% general business fund, and 60% reinvestment. I like these percentages. There is our friend Eric from Income Grinders. What's going on? And thank you for dropping in. For those of you who don't know, Eric has a YouTube channel of his own that you should subscribe to. I highly recommend. Josh says, when does a joke become a dad joke? Says when it becomes apparent. Oh. Let's see. I have jumbo size hands. Yeah, the angle of all of this stuff is all different. It's kind of strange and it's distracting. Okay, there is our friend Niche Campus in the chat. First of all, I want to know how things are going, and then I want to know when it is that you are going to come on this live stream with me. You have to imagine that invitation was going to be coming soon, and I'm extending it now to you. If I'll put you on the spot in the chat. Should you ever wish to come on the stream, you are more than welcome to. There is our friend Sarah from Sarah's Veggie Kitchen. Sarah, I feel like we haven't caught up lately, and I want to know how things are going. I know that you are balancing family and like all the things that come with it, and also camping and doing some other things. And so let's hear what's going on. Let's see. Why are elevator jokes so classic? They work on many levels. Do you see this? Back to the $10,000 a month. Write down $10,000 per month and then make it happen. Yes, I'm almost there. Not quite, but getting there. And so, but $10,000 a month isn't like the end, right? Like I won't be like, oh, I made it. It's like 10,000 from this particular stream, whereas there's other streams that are also doing other things. I just would like, I think I will feel good when I get to that point where this stream, like all of this effort makes that. Sonia says nice things. He says, to be honest, thankful for your YouTube channel and community. Blogging is such a lonely journey. I don't think I'd be writing at 1 a.m. without you guys here. Maybe you would be sleeping. Maybe you'd be doing something else that would be healthy, like resting. But we are glad to have you here, Sonia. You are consistent, pretty consistent with attendance and always positive, always working hard. The question is, how are things from last week when we checked in? Any improvements? I love to hear that, by the way. And I keep checking over the chat. I'm looking for some accountability statements from friends who haven't shared in a while. Like, how are things going? What was working for you in the last week or the last month, and what's not? And can we crowdsource a way to improve it, make it better? Not necessarily fix it, but let's talk about it. Oh yeah, and I guess if you have questions, like feel free to ask them. I don't necessarily know the answer, and in fact, most of the people in the chat know more than I do, but they can often be very helpful. Eric says, no affiliate gathering talk. I did not. I had to cancel for personal family reasons about a month or some ago, and so I am unable to attend. And it's a bummer for me, but I do recommend anybody who does not have a digital ticket to get one and to attend. I'm not trying to be an affiliate for it or anything else at this point. It's just, it'd be a good chance to catch up with everybody. There is Keith. What is going on, Keith? Thanks for dropping in. Dave C asks, what is your average EPMV across your sites for May? Thanks. Well, that is a great question. And if I gave you the average, I'm not sure that it would tell you very much. It would not give you the whole picture. So instead, what I will do is tell you at least what I can recall, because I'm only checking on 3 of my sites what the EPMV or RPM is. The fight site right now, the EPMV is, I'm thinking for a better word than atrocious, but it's bad. It's pretty atrocious. It is around $4 per 1,000 visitors. The Project Resurrection, my 2019 case study, right now, it is also atrocious. It is around $5. Pretty awesome. The mega site is not on ezoic, so it does not have an EPMB. It has an RPM, a session RPM. And the average for this month is, I think, $32. The page RPM is about 26. And it's been interesting because I've been able to keep people on the site longer. So the session RPM obviously is staying the same, but the page RPM is going down just because there's more people sticking around, and it's not like progressing at the same level, but that's okay. Keeping people on the site longer is good. The Otis .global case study site that is in its 5th month. I have not actually moved to monetize at all. And so I don't have an RPM or EPMB for that. I have several other sites that I do not pay attention to, and I have not checked in a while. So I don't know. But if I gave you the average, right, the 2 sites that are at $4 or $5 versus the one that is 32, it would not really explain all that well what those sites are doing. And then people might say, oh, well, that's atrocious. Like you should do something about those other sites, especially that site that is got 20,000 page views and it's got a really horrible RPM. And I say, you're right, but there is only so much time in the day and only so much effort that I have, and I am choosing to invest my effort elsewhere. And then as long as I can continue to build traffic to these other things, then eventually I will make more of those. There's just only so much time in the day. I have kids. I have life. I volunteer. So I just try to put my effort into the things that are currently growing, that have momentum. And then just swear up and down in my mind that I will get back to it eventually. And I will. So thank you for your question, Dave C. Sonia says she's in her 1st year and just crossed her first $100 per month consistently. Don't know how to feel. I think you should feel awesome. In fact, just because he happens to be here, Batman says you should feel awesome. That's how you should feel. Sabina says, I'm very similar, just finished year 1 and I'm about at $200 a month. I think that you guys should feel really good, even though it's not thousands of dollars a month. And I'm sure you hope that it was going to be a lot more. It's still the 1st year, and the 1st year is full of learning. So it's going to go up if you stick with it. Let's see. Someone knows answers. Blave Safari Chris. Yes, Chris is around the world and is not able to catch us live. And so we can blame him for everything. Eric says, ooh, to give us an update on his wife status. Oh, wait, no. I thought you said spouse. I thought it was wife status. No, his division of revenue is says 90% to his spouse and 10% to reinvest in business to be getting the spare time to use. Sorry, I thought you were going to talk about wife status, but you were actually talking about their spouse, which is totally fine. There is our friend Chris Miles from Blogger Evolution, folks. Chris has a YouTube channel and a podcast where he has started interviewing bloggers and talking about blogging, and I do recommend it if you are not subscribed to him. Niche Campus says, ooh, so that tells you I'm about 20 minutes behind, because I swear it was 20 minutes ago when I said I called out Niche Campus. He says, right now I'm laid down in a sleepy mess. Well, I didn't mean like right now. I didn't mean like throw everything out of the way and jump on the live stream. I meant sometime in the future. Let's plan it sometimes in the future. Soren says, do people know the profit first method? I think I could guess what it is, but I would love you to tell me what it is so that I don't sound like a moron. I mean, I do that on my own. I know, but what is it from your side of things? Josh says he's lighting the world on fire. I missed the progression to that comment. I don't know what it is. Eric says 10K is the beginning, sky's the limit, and I agree. I'm not sure that I held that view in the beginning because it didn't seem possible. It seemed like a dream. You think about it when you go to work every day and you work for someone else, and you know, the way that you make more money is you try to get raises, or you just have to work harder to try to get them to give you more money. And it really isn't always on your merits or what you're worth or giving your time to them. And dreaming about going from a couple $1,000s a month to 10K a month, unless you're in sales, just it seems like play money. It seems like monopoly. It seems impossible. But almost 4 years later, I don't feel like it's impossible anymore. I've really started to believe. And I will say that seems to be coinciding with and maybe they go together, right? Like the income going up or the revenue going up and the belief, or was it one first and then the other? Was it belief first and then money, or was it money first and then belief? But it's no coincidence that those things are growing together. Gokul says, question, how come some bloggers get 100,000 traffic with few hundred posts, but some write thousands of info posts like the Mega site, and they don't have all that much? And I will say that it has to do with a lot of things that we can't always control and we don't always know. One of those things is the niche, right? And not just competition, but how deep is it? How many people are in it? For example, if your niche was cars, just in general, cars, right? There are billions of people that potentially would be a potential visitor to your site. If your niche was Hot Wheels cars that are red with green wheels, like really small. So first thing is, how deep is your potential audience for this? Two is competition, right? It's just, okay, in the niche for cars, like there's thousands of competitors in there versus the competitors for, red Hot Wheels cars with green wheels. Like there may not be any competitors, but there may be an audience there. It may be easy to get thousands of page views with very little traffic. And I know that there's some folks in the chat right now who have smaller sites that still get thousands of page views simply because of the niche. There's also the keywords that you choose. If you choose keywords that also have the audience, right, that it's a question that lots of people want to know, like let's say thousands of people want to know, like how to replace a broken windshield. That happens all the time. There's tons of people who want to know that the answer to that question versus like, how do I take this green thing off of this thing? Audience is going to be really small. So there's so much more that goes into it. And I wish I could say, there you go, like, oh, like quality of your content and, your on-page SEO and your links and all the stuff. But there's not a really simple answer to say that folks did one thing. Like they wrote their blog posts with a Ada Twist scientist pen. Like that was the difference. It's there's so much that goes into it. I wish I had a better answer for that. Sabina says, I'm still living in anxiety over keyword rearrange. You might have to tell me more about the keyword rearrange. Research. Okay. That makes more sense. Yes, well, picking a keyword and jumping into a cluster can feel a little bit like a leap of faith, right? I don't necessarily know if these keywords and the strategy, if they will be successful. I'm investing my time and money into it, and then will they reward me? So some anxiety is normal and natural, and eventually you just have to believe, make a choice, get started, see what happens. Pastor Duke, what's going on? Thanks for coming in. And he says, no progress on the affiliate site. Back to my accountability call out. Last week we talked about his affiliate site a bit. Waiting for a refresh. I've done all I can on the site since all the articles and not just affiliate were hit. Yep, so it could be a situation of waiting for Google to roll back algorithm changes and see if it resurrects, if it returns. Sarah, in response to asking how she was doing, said that she is busy with an exclamation point, which to me means very busy. But sites are doing good, which is awesome. And that's great to hear, great to know about. Site 1 has hit 50,000 sessions for the first time. Yes. Are you planning on making any changes to it now that it has hit 50,000 sessions? I am excited to hear about it. Some folks that are with Ezoic, especially if the site is an info site, like they're happy with Ezoic, or they are locked into their premium contract for a certain amount of time versus getting excited about testing out other monetization strategies. And so please, like, allow us to celebrate with you. Job well done. and then tell us what you were planning on doing. I would love to know. Eric says, status, choosing niche for first US global and English website. And instead of just doing Swedish sites, time to scale up. So you have so many sites. I honestly don't know how you manage them all. So when you talk about scaling up, like where you're at right now, Eric, to me already feels like scaled up. So you're going to take it to the next level. And I'm excited to hear about how this goes. Pastor Duke says, 30 articles written on the news site being prepared for launch. High five. 35,000 words written since the first of the month. Oh my gosh. That is ridiculous and awesome. Well done. If you need a pat on the back, I'll pat myself on the back and just know that that was meant for you. Josh says, should I put my site on the spreadsheet? So are you asking if you should put the URL? Who has the guts? I don't encourage anybody to share anything that they don't want to. If you want to put your URL on the site, feel free. Nobody has to. I'm afraid. Not gonna lie. I'm just afraid. Andy says, back to keyword research. He says, I get keyword research, but it's the what to do with some of the research I have done with it. Blogs, FAQs, pillar posts, etc. Yes, there are so many things that can be done. Chris says, did she freeze or it's just me? I'm guessing that it was just you because I'm still here. Niche Campus says, hey, I'm currently playing around with some programmatic stuff. Have you done any of this? For example, a bunch of data and using WP all import. I am not, but I do know that there are other folks that are watching this live or who will catch the replay who are. And I would direct you to their expertise. I am not a tech moron, but not very far from it. We'll just say that. Maeve says, ooh, back to maybe the back to the mom blog. I said I should just sell it and then put all the money into the Mega site. That's not a bad idea, and I've thought often around selling it just so that it is off my plate and I don't have to deal with it anymore. But I'm having a hard time letting it go. It was my first, not my first baby, because let's face it, I started a whole bunch of sites that crashed and burned, or I let go before I started that 2019 site, but it's a baby and it's my shoe shop and I'm having a really hard time selling that shoe shop. Eric says, WP all import is fun. Tried building some affiliate stores. Like I said, somebody else probably knows. And there's Keith. That's the next rabbit hole I want to fall into. Keith says, isn't Chris getting married this weekend? Best of luck to them. Well, if he is, I didn't know, and I'm going to angry text Chris as soon as this is over. It says, why didn't you tell me you were getting married so I can hassle you about it? I mean, I knew he was getting married. I just didn't know it was this weekend. Chris, if you're catching this on the replay, you are so in trouble. My robotic dance routine. Yes, well, that would be something else. Sonia says, is $100 with 50 posts good for a start? I'm trying to push more articles out. The answer for me is always going to be yes. And if somebody says, is $100 with 30 posts good for a start? My answer would be yes. Is $100 with 100 posts good for a start? The answer is yes, because $100 is a good start. And similar to what we talked about before, there's really no way to say that it's good or not good as compared to everything else, because so many things go into it: the niche, competition, the depth of the audience, et cetera, et cetera. So the answer is yes. It's excellent. I'm so proud of you. Well done. Let's see. Eric says that his current wife status is about 91%. So you're almost back to it, which is awesome. Oh, back to the profit first method. Soren says in profit first, you move 10 to 15% into a profit account. Every quarter, you take half of what is in that account and pay yourself as a bonus. Right now, I'm just putting everything back in, so I don't really have any sort of official division of things. But 2023 is probably going to be a good year to really start thinking about it. Stig says in a singing voice, this is, how deep is your blog niche love? He should make a video and then post it to us so we can all enjoy that. Chris says, sorry if this has already been asked. It has not been asked. How is the Otis age domain case study going? And would you do it again? Well, I'm looking for my phone, and I have no idea where it was because of the frantic decamp from my other office to over here. I talked about it a bit last week, and the summary of it is that I feel like it's really positive. It's not like a to the moon moment, but what I think is that the stats that I'm seeing for a site that is technically 4.5 months old on the H domain, the indexing status and situation, the not traffic obviously because the site has way fewer posts than the Mega site, but generally the behavior of the site is really similar to the Mega site. And I would not expect, especially in a niche that is really competitive, to see any sort of progress or growth in the first couple of months as compared to my other really competitive niche site. The fight site is in a really competitive niche, and it was like crickets, like a fresh domain, but almost completely dead until months 7, 8, 9. And only recently has it really started to do something, and it's almost a year old. And I'm seeing growth much earlier than I would expect. So the summary of it is positive, not over the moon, but the same side, like the same side. I haven't like put over the moon effort into it. I just wanted to put reasonable effort into it. And would I do it again? The answer is yes, I would. I'm not saying it would always be a domain with Otis or with any other particular provider. I'm pleased with this particular domain. The links are that were promised to come with the domain. The backlinks are still there, and I think still doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, because this niche I'm finding is extremely competitive and with some really well-known, high-ranking like sites that you would know, right? Like if I said it, you'd be like, oh yeah, you're never going to outrank those guys. But to have links from them and to be able to compete with them on any topics at all, I feel really good about it. And so, yes, I would do it again. Let's see, folks saying hey to Chris Miles, saying he's got a channel and should check it out. And I totally agree. Scrolling through the chat because I am super behind. People talking to each other. Sonia says published almost 10 articles in May, which I know how hard it is that you work on things and how this is your side hustle because you also have other stuff in life and working like in the middle of the night. I still think it's good. You say I'm still stuck at 30,000 sessions and you just got to keep going. It's going to move. It is going to move if you just keep putting more content up. Maybe not as fast as you want, but it will happen. Let's see. Joanne says, if I buy another domain, how easy is it to transfer posts from my old site to my new one? That's a great question. It depends on how you want to do it. You could do and I'm going to kick this to the chat for folks and who may have already answered it. You could use a plugin. So you would maintain the old domain that has the content that you want to show up on the new domain, and then use a redirection plugin and go post by post and redirect each URL to the new URL that you want it to be, and not do like any copying and pasting of content or like posting it brand new. You can also do a redirection, I believe, at the URL level, so everything gets redirected. I have not done that myself, so I'm truly not the expert on it. If it were up to me and I were the person doing it and it wasn't a ton of content, I would just be using the redirection plugin and then doing a post by post transfer to move it to so that it would show up at the new site. And then maintain the old site for as long as I think it was necessary. Just watch the stats on how many people were hitting the old URL. And then eventually over time, when there's almost no traffic coming from the old URLs, then I would dump it. But in the meantime, I would maintain the domain and the hosting until that happened. I would love to know what other people think about it though. And I'm sure they will have better thoughts than I do. Eric says that he has 160 smaller sites and all Swedish. Yes, I know, and I don't know how you do that. Josh says, LOL, afraid Emilia when no one can duplicate 1,000 posts per month. I am, yeah, I admit it. I fully admit it. I am afraid to share my URLs. I'm afraid that people will not only copy the keywords, copy the posts, copy, and not that it's like astonishing, right? Like I'm not an astonishingly good blogger. People have started asking me about courses and things, and I don't feel like I'm astonishingly good at this, but people, and I've seen this happen with other YouTubers where they start to get negative SEO attacks and like people doing not nice things about it. And I mean, I try to be as nice as possible here online, but I can't account for everybody. So yeah, I don't hesitate to admit it at all. Like I'm afraid to share the URLs on my sites. Gokul says, I wonder what is the average income expenses in the US. Here in India, a regular IT engineer gets 10,000 US per year, and almost all expenses get covered with some savings. So 4K a month is like top 1% in India. And that's what is amazing actually about the blogging whole business is that you could do it from anywhere in the world, assuming you're in a country that is supported by the programs that actually will do payouts to those places, and then making even a small amount online, like let's say a couple $100s a month, which I think most people can get there if they commit to doing the work and really stick it out and just learn how to do it. But that can be life-changing money for people. And $4,000 a month to me doesn't cover everything, right? It doesn't cover rent. It doesn't necessarily cover insurance and all the things, but a couple $100s a month in other places in the world would be dramatic, and $4,000 a month would be high rolling. So that's one of the things I love about blogging. Sarah says, I keep tossing around the idea of Mediavine was my premium plan. So we're talking about the Ezoic. So how long do you have still left on your Ezoic premium plan? But I'm the type of person that doesn't like change, making that tough for me. Totally get it. It can be stressful. You also have to plan to have uh, a month or so where there's no income coming from the site, because you go on Ezoic, what has the payouts. You don't have to wait 60 days, or at least you didn't before, and then you have that break where you switch to a new ad network in Mediavine. You earn the money, and then you have to wait 60 days after that. So there's 2 months in there where there's nothing coming in. And if you're reliant on that money, having that money, then you have to figure out either a plan to pay the bills in the meantime, um, or suffer, or not do it. So I get it. Dave C says, have you thought about making a Spanish version of all your posts? If so, would you make a separate site or making the existing site multilingual? That's a great question. I have considered it in theory as an option, but mostly I'm targeting US traffic, at least for now. And I haven't done the math, and I don't have any stats or data on what the value is of Spanish traffic in the US, which is the traffic that I am primarily targeting. There's definitely Spanish speakers here in the US that would be valuable. I just don't know whether or not it's a good use of my time. And right now, while I am continuing to do what I'm doing, it is producing a good result. So until I feel like I don't want to say exhausted, but exhausted either the keywords or my energy on doing this, I probably will not explore that as an option. I did hear of some other folks recently who talked about, and actually what I'm thinking about is, I think it was Adam on a podcast. He wasn't on his own. He was on a different podcast that was talking about his attempt to convert one of his sites to other languages and how it sort of flopped massively, not because it wasn't a good strategy, but because the method by which he went to create the multilingual sites just failed to work. And I was not motivated to go down that road yet. Will it happen in the future? Quite possibly. If anybody else has done it and made money in the chat, I would love to know. Please tell me. What is Josh Coop's channel name? If you don't know it, that is white hot blogging. White hat blogging. And the mods who are in the chat, feel free to share Josh's um, the URL to his YouTube in the chat. I am on this computer here, and it doesn't have as many screens, so I don't have like the ability to go and do that. White hat blogging. There's somebody else. Josh says it himself. Well, I just said it to everybody else. Instead, I said white hot blogging, which is also a good YouTube channel name, in my opinion. The affiliate school says that's really fascinating about the age domain. I have 2 new sites that have recently started and hitting the content hard. Like you, it's a super competitive niche. I know, right? And I just was, it was cool for me that I had the experience of starting the site last year in the legal niche, which I consider to be competitive. I'm not saying it is, but I think it is. And then watching how long it took the content to index, and then also for it to start getting traffic, and then to watch the Otis site and how it just seemed to, I don't want to say skip the sandbox or whatever. It's just that it started to perform like an older site way sooner. Let's see. Stig says, I have your URLs. I can share them for you if you don't want to. This is how I feel about that, Stigs. Thanks. Fake attacks. Yeah. Back to the question of whether or not to share URLs. Chris says he says he doesn't reveal. He says it's too risky. I depend on that income to put food on the table. Game Guy says, I think it's wise not to share them. I just haven't seen good results coming from it. Stig says 7,000 percentage increase on pages that have multilingual translation. Well done. Niche Campus says, I've heard about plugins that auto-translate an entire site and just add an extra ES, for example, and simplifies it a ton. The only thing I would want to have is somebody on board who actually spoke the language to help me know if it's good content, if it did a good job, because I wouldn't know. I mean, I speak some Spanish, but let's face it, my Spanish is not that good. Sarah says that she has 6 months left on her premium plan, so it gives her time to figure out what to do. I'm also hoping Site 2 will grow as well within the last 6 months. So here's a question, Sarah. Did you feel like it was a good idea to get into a premium plan with Ezoic on the contract, or do you regret it? I'm super curious about that. Some folks don't hesitate to pull their sites out, and they just figured that the freedom to explore other monetization options would produce in the end like a net improvement, even if they continue to pay for premium, just having taken their site away. Pete says, to which channel? And I said, to white hot blogging. I mean white hat blogging. Niche Campus too. Feel free to throw Niche Campus's URL in there too. Anybody, because they're both bloggers who are totally worth following. They are one of us, 100%. Josh says, you heard people who don't have sites that want to hide the fact. If this were true, then Matt G and Swim University would be trashed by now after 3 years. Well, I applaud him. I'm afraid. That's it. I don't mind admitting it. I'm afraid. And maybe my anxiety is misplaced. Maybe I'm afraid of things that like being afraid of zombies, right? Like the odds of zombie attack, like, come on, it's not a real threat. Yeah. Sorry, I just am. I understand that some people aren't, and good on them. Good on them. I applaud them. That's just not me. That's how it is. Sonia says, yep, Niche Campus. Thank you, Pete. Sonia says, I just got invited to Ezoic Premium, but I feel like I should wait because I'm at 20,000 sessions from Mediavine. I think the choice is yours. You should do what feels right for you. I do recommend, though, that everybody try to experience as much as they can in all of the various networks, and that way you can more better compare your experience. So some people say, oh, you should never do this, or you should never do this, and then you find yourself relying upon other people's opinions about things when you could actually get the experience and then know for yourself for sure. So there's no room for doubt. There's no room for anxiety about, oh, is this a good decision or not? Because you'll have information for yourself and you will know. Niche Campus says, I partially regret my premium subscription. My goal is absolutely 50,000 sessions a month and Mediavine because I'm convinced that it will be better revenues. Josh says, stubborn and opinionated. Are you speaking about yourself or me? Because I feel like that could describe me and I would be proud of it. Let's see. Chris says he stays monthly with Ezoic. He says, I don't like contracts at all. I didn't start my own business to be told what to do. Totally feel you there. Thanks for saying that, Amelia. Yeah, I totally think it's worth it. I think that the more of us that can connect here on YouTube, I think there are many benefits. One is it keeps us in the game. It keeps us around longer. I think it keeps us healthier and happier to know more people and also just to be able to consume each other's content and remind ourselves that whatever goal that we want to reach is possible, and being subscribed to channels where the people are actually doing the work and not just making how to make money online videos. And you don't get the feeling from them ever that they have done the work. Sabina says there is an option to do Ezoic Premium without the contract. Yes, there is. It just costs more per month, and that's what she did. So another solution. Josh says, not trying to grieve. There's just no proof. It's silly. So it's silly. And I can only, as far as like sharing URLs and like having people have negative experiences, I rely upon the experiences of some people that I feel like I trust, who said that they shared URLs and then experienced, certain outcomes of it. And so I choose to believe them. I choose to believe them. And I know you said you weren't trying to grieve. You don't have to agree with me. And I think it's something to balance. Like everybody on YouTube has something to balance. And there can be a really positive impact on the sites, sharing them on YouTube, because you do get traffic from YouTube for people who want to check out the sites. And then the stats that come along with it, like they stay on the site a long time. And so that Google could potentially see that traffic and that these users are staying on it for a long time. And then that could have a positive impact on the site overall, and you could earn more money. And also, if you're somebody who is looking to promote your skills as a blogger, then making your URL available to other people so that they could see proof of what your skills are and what it is that you do. I mean, there are definitely benefits to it. I just doing what I'm doing. Eric says, what US global top niche would you recommend to start? That is a broad question, Eric. And I wish I had like a good answer for it. Actually, if I had a good answer for it, I wouldn't give it to you, and I would start the niche myself. And I would just do it and I wouldn't share it. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you for that. I think that if somebody is going to start their first site in the US, it should be on something that they can go deep on. And that's probably a good place to start. I would worry less about competition because I feel like I've proven to myself that I could get traffic, and there are keywords out there, even in the most competitive of niches, but just what is something that you can work on that you could go deep on and stick with it for a long time. Let's see. Niche Campus says, from what I've seen on earnings from premium, the monthly contract option seems really rubbish extra earnings in comparison to the annual. So they got me. They got you. Sarah says that she doesn't regret it because time flies by. She says she's also been really happy with Ezoic, which is awesome. Opinionated and stubborn, Josh says, me, I'm always that way in YouTube. Yes, and it's getting worse as I get older. It's better than the opposite and being wishy-washy. I agree. Holy cow, it's already the top of the hour. Wow. Very common thread. I hate having bosses. Yes, if you have one. Yes, I can understand. The affiliate school says he shared the URL of his H domain case study today. And the question is like let's watch how that plays out, right? Like it's anecdotal evidence, but still it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and hopefully sending out good vibes that it's only positive, all positive. We're going to think positive. All right, folks, it is the top of the hour. If you have not signed up to be a digital participant attendee at the affiliate gathering is coming up at the end of this week. The link is in the description below. For those of you who hung out with us for the hour for the chat, thank you for putting up with the new environment and the new audio. And for those of you who are lurking and working, well done. And we will catch you next week. All right, take care.